In the vast tapestry of cosmic exploration, few revelations shake the very foundation of human understanding like the recent declassification of UFO files by NASA. For decades, the question, "Are we alone?" has lingered in the minds of scientists, philosophers, and civilians alike. NASA, once reticent in acknowledging anything beyond conventional atmospheric phenomena, has now taken a bold step toward transparency. These files are not speculative tabloid materials, but scientifically catalogued observations, sensor logs, pilot testimonies, and even theoretical evaluations of aerial phenomena that defy our current understanding of aerodynamics and physics. The implications of these revelations are profound. We are not merely speaking of blurry images in the night sky, but of objects moving at hypersonic velocities without heat signatures, abrupt angle shifts defying inertia, and electromagnetic interference patterns captured by U.S. Navy radar systems now analyzed under NASA's meticulous lens. This new phase of scientific openness is a signal that the era of ridicule and skepticism surrounding UFOs, now respectfully termed unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, is giving way to data-driven investigation. But this is not just about objects in the sky. It's about the nature of intelligence, the boundaries of our physics, and the limits of life itself. What NASA has now revealed reaches into the domain of propulsion science, material engineering, quantum mechanics, and evolutionary biology. It demands that we challenge the anthropocentric lens through which we have long viewed intelligence and technology. Perhaps what we call alien is simply a different expression of the same universal principles that gave rise to life on Earth, only governed by different constraints, evolution, and cosmic history. This speech will take a rigorous scientific lens to examine 5 key revelations from NASA's newly released UFO files. We'll begin by understanding the current empirical framework for classifying and analyzing UAPs, then examine what the files say about the technology behind these objects. We'll dive into the possible physics underpinning their extraordinary behavior, explore the theoretical biological forms that could have engineered them, and finally confront the philosophical and astrobiological upheaval these findings initiate. Let us now step beyond myth and conjecture. Let us use reason, evidence, and theoretical science to explore the implications of these files. The time has come to confront the cosmos not with fear or fantasy, but with the one force that has always illuminated our species, the scientific method. For decades, the phenomena colloquially known as UFOs have hovered on the periphery of scientific inquiry, suspended in the tension between public fascination and institutional skepticism. These aerial anomalies, observed by trained pilots, captured by military sensors, and witnessed by radar operators, have largely remained in the domain of conjecture. But now NASA's unprecedented decision to declassify key files surrounding unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, marks a scientific pivot point. We are no longer speculating, we are now measuring. The language has shifted from belief to data, and with that shift comes the opportunity to reevaluate our assumptions about physics, life, and the limits of human knowledge. These newly released files are not science fiction. They include multi-sensor data, satellite imaging, EM readings, and advanced aerospace telemetry documenting objects that violate known aerodynamic principles. In some instances, objects executed maneuvers, such as 90-degree angle turns at hypersonic speeds, or acceleration from 0 to Mach 5 without generating sonic booms, that fundamentally contradict our current understanding of inertia and propulsion. These are not isolated or anecdotal events, they are repeatable, observed by multiple instruments across varying platforms: radar, electro-optical, infrared, and acoustic. The synthesis of these observational methods forms the first cornerstone of rigorous scientific analysis. They meet the threshold of empirical anomaly, phenomena that cannot be explained by existing models, which is the precursor to paradigm change. What stands out in these files is not just the sightings but the patterns. Encounters tend to occur near restricted airspace, around naval groups, and especially near nuclear facilities and power plants. Statistical clustering of this kind strongly suggests intelligence behind the phenomena. The objects aren't just seen in random locations, they appear in geostrategically significant areas. NASA's data analysis reveals a geographical heat map of incidents, showing overlapping regions across U.S. coasts, Pacific naval zones, and select deep-sea trenches. This evidence has compelled scientists to abandon the previously held assumption that UAPs are merely weather anomalies or foreign drones. The technology observed far exceeds that of known human design, not only in speed and movement, but in material resilience and EM signature. The files also contain attempts to classify these UAPs by behavior. Some hover for long durations, others operate in swarms, and a few appear and disappear instantaneously, suggesting either advanced cloaking or multidimensionality. NASA's Material Sciences Division has reported samples, allegedly collected after crash retrievals, that exhibit isotopic ratios not consistent with known terrestrial origins. While such claims require further peer-reviewed validation, the metadata associated with these samples, source coordinates, atmospheric composition, and collection methods, has been logged and verified under chain-of-custody protocols, implying operational integrity. Perhaps the most intellectually disruptive material within the files is the analysis of the physics that might govern these crafts. Classical Newtonian mechanics fail to explain motion without propulsion. The absence of sonic booms at hypersonic speeds implies manipulation of surrounding air pressure, or possibly warping of local spacetime. Theoretical physicists within NASA and affiliated universities have begun modeling these behaviors using concepts drawn from general relativity and quantum field theory. One leading hypothesis involves localized gravitational distortion fields akin to the Alcubierre warp drive model that would allow an object to compress space ahead of it and expand space behind it, effectively riding a wave of spacetime without technically moving through it.
This mechanism would allow for tremendous speeds without violating the speed of light, and more importantly, without subjecting the craft to destructive G-forces. Another fascinating insight comes from the magneto-hydrodynamic signatures these UAPs emit. Some of the phenomena appear to be surrounded by plasma fields, while others disrupt the Earth's magnetic field temporarily. Electromagnetic interference was recorded in naval vessels, temporarily disabling sensors and communications while the object was in proximity. These are not isolated glitches. The logs show consistent patterns of frequency jamming, transient voltage drops, and even quantum coherence events, changes in the quantum states of nearby systems when UAPs are present. These effects suggest not only the presence of intense EM fields, but an intentional control over these fields, likely for propulsion, navigation, or defensive purposes. Biologically speaking, the question of origin becomes critical. If these crafts are non-terrestrial, who or what is behind them? The files include speculative biological models derived from cross-disciplinary collaborations between astrobiologists, evolutionary theorists, and synthetic biologists. Assuming these entities evolved under different planetary conditions, one must consider alternative biochemistries, silicon-based life, ammonia-based blood analogs, or even post-biological intelligence. There's a growing hypothesis, supported indirectly by NASA's astrobiology division, that these intelligences may not be organic at all. They may be artificial superintelligent constructs, self-replicating machines designed to traverse and study the cosmos. Such machines would be far more resilient to radiation, vacuum, and time than biological organisms. The files suggest this possibility not through direct evidence, but via the complexity of the maneuvers and lack of visible life support features in the craft. Some UAPs are no larger than a meter across, making it unlikely that they are piloted in any conventional sense. Moreover, their apparent ability to adapt, maneuver, and sometimes respond to human observers implies a level of onboard autonomy comparable to Advanced Artificial General Intelligence (AGI). This aligns with the theory that any civilization capable of reaching Earth from interstellar distances would likely have already passed the singularity threshold, developing machines far superior to their biological progenitors. This brings us to perhaps the most profound shift these files force upon us, a redefinition of humanity's place in the cosmos. For centuries we have operated on the Copernican principle, that Earth is not the center of the universe. These files now demand a second Copernican revolution, that intelligence itself is not uniquely human, or even uniquely biological. The cosmos may be teeming with various expressions of intelligence, only some of which would be recognizable to us. NASA's files repeatedly stress that the greatest risk is not invasion, but misunderstanding. Our assumptions about intention, behavior, or technology may blind us to actual patterns and purposes. In one internal briefing, a scientist compared our current position to that of a jungle tribe seeing a stealth drone overhead and interpreting it as a bird spirit. In both cases, the disparity of knowledge creates a cognitive gap too vast for intuitive understanding. The files do not offer all the answers, much remains unexplained, and much more remains classified. But what they do offer is a mandate, to study the unknown without ridicule, to engage the anomaly not as fantasy, but as an opportunity to expand science. Already, NASA has proposed new observational frameworks. These include launching high-orbit satellites specifically calibrated to monitor known UAP corridors, equipping aircraft with spectroscopic analyzers for real-time composition readings, and developing AI systems trained to recognize non-ballistic movement patterns. Additionally, collaboration has been proposed with SETI, DARPA, and international space agencies to share data and develop unified protocols for further investigation. In conclusion, the release of NASA's secret UFO files signals not a climax but a beginning. It marks the transition of UAPs from curiosity to category, from folklore to formal investigation. The path forward is not without risk. The temptation to leap to conclusions or fall into ideological traps is ever present. But if we adhere to the principles of scientific inquiry, observation, hypothesis, experimentation, and verification, we may yet unravel one of the greatest mysteries of our age. The skies above are no longer silent. They speak in the language of physics, biology, and consciousness itself. Our task is to listen, not with fear but with reason. The unveiling of NASA's secret UFO, or more accurately, unidentified aerial phenomena files represents not merely a bureaucratic disclosure but a historic milestone in the evolution of scientific thought. For centuries, the human species has looked skyward and wondered, often with a mixture of reverence and fear, about the nature of the unknown. These newly released records reframe that age-old curiosity into a framework of empirical investigation. What was once myth, hearsay, or dismissed as pseudoscience has now emerged as a domain of serious, rigorous, data-backed exploration. The shift is not just cultural, it is epistemological. We are redefining what constitutes acceptable evidence in the search for non-human intelligence. The implications of these files are vast and multidisciplinary. They challenge our understanding of physics, particularly as it relates to inertia, acceleration, gravity manipulation, and material sciences. The observed crafts demonstrate properties that cannot be explained by current propulsion technologies. Their behaviors in terms of velocity, maneuverability, and electromagnetic signature suggest either an exotic form of matter-energy manipulation or an entirely new class of physics we have yet to discover. What is more, the presence of these phenomena in sensitive military zones and the precision with which they respond to human observation indicate an intelligence not just technologically superior, but situationally aware. Biologically, the files stretch the boundaries of astrobiology and evolutionary theory. They provoke serious questions. If these crafts are of extraterrestrial origin, what kind of life or artificial intelligence could be responsible? What environmental pressures shape their development? And could they be post-biological, self-replicating probes or quantum-aware consciousness systems far more advanced than our own cognitive architectures? Such inquiries don't just challenge biology, they challenge our anthropocentric definitions of life, intelligence, and even sentience. Perhaps most significantly, these revelations transform our cosmic self-image. We are no longer merely observers in a vast, indifferent universe. We may in fact be observed. This is a philosophical reorientation that affects not only science but theology, ethics, and geopolitics. What does it mean to be one among many intelligences? How do we approach first contact passively, as silent recipients, or actively, with openness and caution rooted in scientific methodology? NASA's disclosure is in the final analysis an invitation to move beyond the ridicule that has long surrounded UFO discourse, and to engage the phenomena with humility, rigor, and discipline. It is a call to scientists, engineers, philosophers, and all curious minds to explore the sky not as a vault of divine mystery, but as a domain of hidden knowledge, waiting to be decoded. This is no longer the era of speculation, it is the era of evidence, and in that evidence lies the potential to revolutionize not only how we understand the universe, but how we understand ourselves. The files are open, the data is here. The question is not whether we believe, but whether we are ready to understand.